Hi folks, well the new moon in Capricorn is at 2:27, so about 4 or 5 hours from now as I record this. And I want this video to be both a mixture of the new moon in Capricorn as well as a weekly overview, because the new moon is happening today on a Monday, and the aspects that are encoded into this new moon pretty much for the month of January, most of them are going to occur by the end of this week, which reminds me, let me pull up some dates so we can look at that. I am thinking of, that sounds so vague. Let me put it this way. If you, I was thinking of this as a special. I am offering an overview of 2025 for your birth chart during the month of January. So if you want to get an astrological consultation regarding 2025 and how it affects your birth chart, use the email address in the description box below and write to me. The rates will vary by region because there are certain things that I can offer or not, and I don't want to be unfair. Just know that I'm not going to quote different rates to different people. So rather than give you all that detail here, just trust that I'm going to offer something at a discounted rate, a 2025 overview as it affects your birth chart for the month of January. If you're interested in finding out more, use the email address below and email me there. Let's move on to what we want to talk about. The new moon in Capricorn. The good news is that the new moon in Capricorn is unaspected. There's a new moon, and as far as I'm concerned, that is it. It's in and of itself, as far as I am concerned, and I know different people have different feelings about this, it's not making any aspects. And that doesn't make it strong or weak or anything, because a new moon has to be taken in context. It has to be taken into consideration along with other transits that the personal planets are making through the sign of Capricorn. Venus, and we're going to come, this is an important thing I'm going to share. Venus went over the sign of Capricorn between November the 11th and December the 7th. The sun, of course, entered Capricorn on December the 21st, and we have a new moon today. We have a corresponding full moon on July the 10th. Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. And Mercury is still in Sagittarius, and Mercury is going to come into Capricorn and be here from Jan the 8th to Jan the 28th. There's one more thing I want to just check. Mercury also leaves its shadow degrees in Sagittarius on January the 2nd. Okay, I'm going to give you these dates right now, and then we'll make sense of it. So Venus through Capricorn, November 11th to December 7th. Sun enters Capricorn December 21st to Jan 19th. December 30th, the new moon, with a corresponding full moon on July the 10th of 2025. And Mercury in Capricorn, Jan the 8th to Jan 28th. Mercury is still in Sagittarius, and Mercury clears his shadow degrees. The degrees he went over, he's gone over 3 times his shadow period, so to speak, as part of his retrograde between November 26th and December the 15th. He clears that on January the 2nd. And if it feels currently like we're still untangling, detangling the knots from that Mercury retrograde, you would be right. There's something, in my humble opinion, lovely about the fact that we have a new moon occurring a couple of days before the new year begins. As you know, and you might be, even when you watch this, you might be entering December 30th, 31st, feeling depleted. The moon is dark. There's not a lot of intuitive or emotional energy available to us. In some ways, it's kind of a nice way to be in reflective. I would just say that the biggest thing with the dark of the moon prior to a new moon is that if things feel hopeless or anxious or depressed, just to let the new moon happen and let the energy and the wind start to come back behind your sails as well. I think that the moon, even though you're on the other side of the new moon, the moon is still dark for a couple of days. For some people, the energy of the moon really comes back when the crescent first starts to become visible or more present. That typically takes, a couple of days after the new moon. Some people like to do their affirmations after a new moon. Some people like to wait until that crescent is visible. Some people take the void, sort of the void of course periods into consideration as to not writing down affirmations. And whatever your philosophy is, you're welcome to it. But new moon in Capricorn sets up the month of Capricorn all the way to, in my humble opinion, to January the 29th, when we have the Aquarius new moon. So matters related to the Capricorn part of your chart now get the kind of energetic boost that allows you to take action. Venus coming into Capricorn between November 11th to December 7th. This is a very important, what I'm going to say here is very, very important, because we're going to come back to this definition between now and March again and again. I've said to you before, and I will stand by this, whenever Venus, especially when Venus is moving ahead of the other personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, sometimes Mars, although Mars is kind of far away, Venus does two things. Number one, she asks, what do you need to do to bring the part of the chart that she's transiting into alignment with your overall goals? And is the way that you're living, the way that you're spending, how you are earning, relationships, are they in alignment? Do they feel like they're in flow? Are they supporting where you want to go? Are they supporting what you value? And Venus also brings opportunities, job opportunities, relationship opportunities. She may secure a deal. She may make things go a little bit smoother. Now, Venus is going to enter the sign of Pisces on January the 3rd. And that's interesting because she didn't leave Pisces all the way into April. She's going to go through Pisces. She's going to go into Aries. She's going to go retrograde in March, go back into Pisces, go direct from there. And she's going to start to make some important aspects in Pisces. And all of that clearly is the subject for another video, because it has nothing to do with, let me just make sure, yeah, it has nothing to do with this new moon in Capricorn. But between November 11th and December 7th, Venus may have the thing with bringing things into alignment and the planets. You know how they say everything is not exactly how it seems, particularly in the way we might judge something. Venus could bring you an opportunity that you feel like, oh, Venus is going through the house occupied by Capricorn. This is an Aquarius. This is an opportunity. So this must be right. This must be the right thing. But Venus may bring, sometimes planets bring up situations. And especially with Venus, she may create contact. The way to sometimes create healing is to try to get you to bring that part of the chart into alignment. And sometimes other things can be offered that either set up a contrast, that ultimately you take them on and you realize that they serve their purpose in some way, but it might be the wrong decision, but it has actually allowed you, this is the important thing, it has actually allowed you to realize what the right decision is. So Venus going through the Capricorn part of the chart between November 11th and December the 7th may have started and prompted the question of, what do you need to start doing? What would it look like if the house occupied by Capricorn in your birth chart was in alignment with what you value? Because she's moving so much further ahead than the personal planets, other personal planets, she could have brought something. She could have prompted a thought process. In some cases, especially because, and the biggest reason to bring this up is because some part of that Venus transit was during the Mercury retrograde. And as I said, that Mercury retrograde is still being detangled all the way to January the 2nd. I can't tell each of you, without being in conversation with you and looking at your birth chart, as to what it is that Venus may have brought and whether what she actually brought was the right thing or the wrong thing. What I can tell you is that it's very likely that whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, at this point in time, as you get ready to be on the other side of the Capricorn new moon in a few hours, and you have all the month of January, at least one of the areas of focus, without a doubt, is going to be the house occupied by Capricorn in your chart. And Mercury coming in starting Jan the 8th is going to take action orientation in this part of the chart, planting seeds. When I say the corresponding full moon is on July the 10th, there's an assumption that this month of January, this month of Capricorn that is kickstarted by this new moon, is going to allow you to plant certain seeds that reach a kind of culmination point by July the 10th. So this idea of being in action in the Capricorn part of the chart. Gets a boost even more once Mercury enters Capricorn on Jan the 8th to Jan the 28th. And it's interesting, by Jan the 29th, on Jan the 29th, you have the Aquarius new moon. By Jan the 28th, Jan the 29th, this Capricornian energy is done, is complete. And as the planets move through Capricorn, they square the North Node and they square Chiron. But most intriguingly, they trine Uranus in Taurus. Venus did this on December the 2nd. The Sun is going to do it on Jan the 13th, just around the time of that Cancer full moon, in the middle of this month, in the middle of January, on January the 13th. That is one full moon to watch out for in 2 weeks' time. And then Mercury will do the same on January the 23rd. And trine between these planets in the Capricorn part of the chart and Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus trying to get you to follow the right path for you in the Taurus part of the chart. And Venus, but especially now the Sun and Mercury, and especially as you head to that full moon on the 15th of January in Cancer, with the Sun just having trined Uranus, all may not be exactly what it seems. I mean, it's a very weird way to put it. You are going to, whatever Venus prompted as a conversation and internal reflection, opportunities she may have brought between November 11th and December 7th, you start the process today with a communication and a transaction aspect of it increasing after Jan the 8th. You start the process of determining now, putting into action whatever you need to do to bring the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment and plant seeds. And some of these seeds being planted are going to point you to the right path for you in the Taurus part of the chart. Did you say yes to something, or consider something, or apply for something, or start a series of conversations between November 11th and December the 7th when Venus was going through Capricorn, that as the month of January goes on makes you feel like, oh wow, this opened up a gateway towards something that feels really right for me? Did you, and this is the thing that I need you just to be open on, maybe say yes to something between November 11th and December 7th that felt right at the time and felt like an opportunity to bring the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment, but now you go, that wasn't quite the right thing. But it's as a result of that I really know what I need to do to bring the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment, and it's time for me to plant those seeds and make those changes. You get to, during the month of December, construct something, plant seeds, start the process of taking action to build something aligned with what you value. Actually take action and start to be in communication around and plant some seeds in the house occupied by Capricorn, so that there can be alignment and support to Uranus transiting Taurus, helping you find the right path and process for you. With Uranus, it does not have to be the conventional path. It does not have to necessarily be what looks good on a resume. It just is what feels right for you. It's the right breadcrumbs for you. Can't explain it any other. And with Uranus, intuition can be a very strong factor sometimes. And sometimes with Uranus, it's like the conventional wisdom is that the path from A to Z is this, so do this. But you may feel like you're being somehow called upon to do the opposite, and yet it leads you to where it is that you want to go. Like, now, this is both a new moon video and a weekly overview. But what I'm going to say now applies to both, but has this weekly overview quality of it. Mercury continues to be in Sagittarius till January the 11th. And Mercury is still in Sagittarius. And today, Mercury trines Chiron. And on January the 6th, Mercury will square Neptune. And it's actually January the 8th that Mercury goes into Capricorn, sorry. In the December overview video that I did, and even more importantly in the Sagittarius new moon video I did, Sagittarius new moon was on November the 30th. And even in last week's weekly overview, I've talked about the fact that bringing the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment has been necessary to help Jupiter create its endings and new beginnings in the Gemini part of the chart. And for both the planets transiting Sagittarius, right now we're talking about Mercury, and Jupiter in Gemini, as they take their necessary actions, they both support Saturn in stabilizing and structuring the Pisces part of the chart. If I were to explain what I just said in greater language and greater words, we would be here forever. So if you're like, what did he just say? And something about it resonates and you want to develop it, take a look at my last week's weekly overview because it is there in detail. A lot of Mercury retrograde through Sagittarius, the primary aspects that Mercury made were squaring Saturn in Pisces, opposing Jupiter in Gemini, and trining Chiron in Aries. And Mercury, for the last time, as part of its retrograde and direct, trines Chiron for the third time today. Whether with Mercury it is either internal, but you are either talking to yourself and processing with yourself, or you are directing that energy in an external manner. If you have not had the chance so far to be in communication around how to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment so that Jupiter can create its endings and new beginnings of a 12-13-year cycle in the Gemini part of the chart, and both these sets of actions can help support Saturn transiting Pisces, you still have till January the 8th to do so. And indeed, as you head towards that January 6th Mercury squaring Neptune, it may be that you find that as you head towards January 6th, you will find yourself in some form of communication around that. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because as we look at this weekly overview and as we look at entering the first week of the year, and even though the new moon falls in Capricorn, and you are feeling like some of your energy is still focused on the Sagittarius part of the chart, and you're feeling that there's some unfinished business you have not gotten to, that is not going to take a ton of time to resolve, but is going to take some focus, and you'd ideally like to give that focus over the next 6-7 days, I don't think you're wrong about that. And at this point in time, you may feel like you are juggling these two balls. One is around finishing up Sagittarius season, which you're able to do by January the 8th, with Mercury being the last lingering figure, and Mercury heading now, trining Chiron today, so you're going to feel more empowered, but you're going to move towards that square to Neptune on January the 6th, and you may feel like, all right, there's something I need to do from a communication perspective to finally bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment with what I value. And this is the interesting thing. Venus, having gone through the Sagittarius part of the chart, mid-October to the end of the first week of November or thereabouts. This is the only thing that is a little tricky about the Venus transits right now because they're further ahead. Venus may give the impression that things are going in a certain direction by virtue of the bridges she builds and the communication she starts. And once Mercury and the Sun came into Sagittarius and we had the new moon and we had Mercury retrograde, you may have felt like, Venus, why did you give the impression that things were going to go this way? Whereas what I'm actually doing and processing and thinking about and seeing and observing is actually not nearly as harmonious as the impression you led me to believe. I thought we were moving into alignment in this very hunky-dory way. And instead, I feel like I'm dealing with a certain amount of murky crap. And I think Venus's response would be, I've done my job. I never said that this is what you should do or this is what you should take. I brought you in touch with Venus, self-worth, what you value, where you feel you can add value, how you can charge for it, how it can lead to the right relationships in your life, how you can construct your life in connection with the right kind of flow for you. And sometimes if Venus thinks, he's or she or they are not in alignment, Venus may bring up things and engineer things in such a way that has the potential for healing, but the road is a little circuitous. And sometimes it may feel like during Venus's transit, because the one thing I can say about Venus is that she can make things feel harmonious and hunky-dory, but you go down that process only to realize that as the Sun and Mercury and the new moon are occurring in a certain part of the chart and the reality starts to hit and the Sun spotlights that part of the chart and nothing is hidden, and you're like, wait a second, I thought this was all going to come back to me wrapped up in a bow. And in fact, what I'm getting is that the bow is torn and the package is strewn and the gift is not there. And Venus's way of saying is, well, here's the reality I need to bring. So what now does it mean for you to bring the Sagittarius, or with this new moon in Capricorn, the Capricorn part of the chart, into alignment? Now do you know? Now do you realize? What does it mean to operate from a Venusian sense of self-worth? What do you value? What are you going to allow for? How are you going to build strong, sturdy relationships? What do you have to add of value? How are you going to charge for it? How are you going to create your abundance? What are you going to nurture? Where are you going to invest your time, your energy? And magically, I find that Venus's transit does ultimately, as the Sun and the new moon and Mercury get going, bring us closer to what it means to bring the part of the chart that she transited into alignment. You are going to start that process in a few hours with the Capricorn part of the chart. In the Sagittarius part of the chart, particularly for the first week of January, you are wrapping up that alignment process. And the actual wrapping up coming from a healed place, an empowered place, with Mercury trining Chiron for the third time now, you may feel over the next week that you are finally empowered to take the transactional or communication actions that will help you. You know, with Venus, it's like the Empress card in the tarot. It's a very whole, it's very complete. She's very clear. She's very secure. It's just not self-worth. And bringing things into alignment with, and that comprises not only what we expect to receive from others, but what we also expect to share with others, what we have of value that we can give to the world in an aligned manner. What I'm conveying to you is that the first week of January, this particular week, December 30th to, let's say, Jan 5th, 6th, you may find that you have pending matters related to the Sagittarius part of the chart, the new moon in Sagittarius and Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, that you need to complete. And if you feel that way and you feel like it's kind of a 50-50 situation, the Capricorn part of the chart is pulling its attention more and more, and you're like, I've got to get to these things as well. You're right. Figure out how you can juggle both energies. The Capricorn part of the chart allows for a relatively gentle, opportunity-filled new moon around bringing the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment. What relationship this new moon in this month of January, this Capricorn month that starts with the new moon on January the 30th, 2:27 p.m. Pacific time, sets up for you, you are going to have to determine what relationship this month has with Venus's transit through Capricorn between November 11th to December the 7th. Is it as straightforward as Venus brought me something, and by taking that up and building on it, I'm going to bring it into alignment? Or did Venus bring up something that actually taught me what, in retrospect, I should not have taken or not have done? But by giving me the contrast, Venus put me in touch with, this is what alignment looks like for me in this part of the chart. The new moon is going to grow in energy as we get to that full moon 2 weeks from now. And that full moon is conjunct a full Mars. And it is trining Neptune, and the sun is just off of its trine to Uranus. That full moon is, you've got the sun opposite the moon, which makes the moon full, and just about 4 days away from being completely opposite Mars. Things really, by the time, one of the things that this new moon does, but especially by the time we get to that full moon 2 weeks from now, I would say enjoy the dark of the moon over the next 2 or 3 days, even after it's new. Enjoy the fact that we actually have a new moon just before New Year's Day, so that as you enter January the 1st, you enter with some wind behind your sails. Enjoy the fact that we have 2 or 3 days of typically a holiday period. Typically. Because as you start to head towards January 15th, it is game on. And the energies that take you as the year begins, as you clear the holiday, into the middle to the end of April, is one tornado, one whirlwind. If you were craving action all the way from March, April 2023 to November 20th, 25th of 24, you could have more than your fair share of action and change and shaking things up to get you to where it is that you want to be between the beginning of this year, 2025, and the middle to the end of April. And as you head to that full moon 2 weeks from now, there's no turning back. And one of the questions that starts that process is this new moon by saying, okay, well, one of the things that, one of the factors in the middle of all of this is, what do we want the Capricorn part of our chart to look like to support that? To support what we want our life to look like. As far as the other aspects are concerned that this new moon encodes, we've got Mercury trining Chiron, we've got the South Node trining Pluto, we've got Mars moving towards trining Neptune, we've got Mars trining the North Node. I mean, these are lovely opportunities. Some of this, Mercury trine Chiron, empowerment, healing. Mars trining the North Node, Mars retrograde trining the North Node. Mars is going to trine the North Node one more time when he's direct, aligning us in the direction of the path that is right for us right now, where we can develop and grow. There may be some shakeups as a result of this new moon as you head to the full moon. Venus may have brought some of us something in the Capricorn part of the chart that we may really be forced to look at and say, is this gonna lead me to build something in the Capricorn part of the chart that is aligned, or do I need to, or is it putting me in touch with what this actually needs to look like? So things may need to be shaken up. Mars retrograde trining Neptune for the second of 3 times. With the full moon on the 15th, getting ready to do that on January the 15th. Mercury squaring Neptune on January the 6th. Neptune and Pisces either trying to move you towards a philanthropic, ascetic, renunciatory, spiritual, artistic direction in the Pisces part of the chart, or creating foggy mayhem, deception, an inability to get organized, an inability to be disciplined, and an inability to set boundaries, being shady about certain things, being on the other end of someone else's shadiness. That is on its way to being looked at, healed, communicated towards. This is what I mean by the first week of January. Mercury getting ready to... Mercury squares Neptune from Sagittarius to Pisces, Mercury and Sag, Neptune and Pisces, after he has completed his Mercury retrograde. You may, during this week, feel like something needs to be communicated to start to address something. And then after... I would look at that Mercury square Neptune as the handoff point between Mercury retrograde giving over his energy now, especially in January and February, to the Mars retrograde. The South Node trining Pluto. What do you need to release in the Libra part of your chart? That is going to help Pluto create his transformation in the Aquarius part of the chart where he is right now. And remember, as we head towards the end of January and the Sun and Mercury start to move towards conjuncting Pluto, that is powerful. The other 2 aspects that are encoded into this new moon are a little bit more really interesting. Well, Mars is getting ready to oppose Pluto for the second of 3 times. That is this shake-up energy. But Mars is retrograde. Some aspect of this energy is about correcting plans and strategies related to where we want to go, how we're going to go about it. As I've said to you, a Mars retrograde very much for me is we need to go back, we're constructing something, and for some reason we need to look at the plans again. Or, typical Mars, a general surveying a battlefield going, I need to survey everything again and we need to relook at our strategy. How are you going after what it is that you want? Are you clear about what your goals are? How are you getting there? How and where are you setting boundaries? What needs to be relooked at about that? Are they set in the right place or not? All of that is up for discussion. But Mars is getting ready to oppose Pluto. And finally, the North Node and Neptune getting ready to conjunct in Pisces. And this is not going to happen for a second, but they are within 5 degrees of each other now. And that is one... Oh boy. Both the North Node and Neptune share a certain quality. And indeed, in traditional astrology, especially, for example, Jyotish, a lot of the characteristics that are given over to the North Node or Rahu, in Western astrology are ascribed to Neptune. Kind of a delusional quality, a losing grip on reality. I just find the North Node more compelling and more clear. I find the North Node is very clear about what we're here to master and learn and what the right strategies are for us. And yes, the North Node does have a tendency as we follow that right strategy to make us throw caution to the wind, which is not advisable. I think we are progressively, I think that this time period between now and the middle to the end of April, we're really going to be asked to end and combat and deal with certain old energies so that by the time we get to mid to end April into the end of the first week of June, we can really start to construct the new. And where the North Node is, we need to lean into to develop certain skills. I'm going to talk about some of these aspects in separate videos, but all of that is encoded. What we can't lose sight of with this new moon is that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 trines. The opposition that we have, Mars opposite Pluto, has to be taken into consideration that as part of Mars retrograde, he has making 3 trines. Mars opposite Pluto cannot be ignored for its disruptiveness. It is not an easy aspect. And it typically comes with some kind of shakeup, some sort of violence, some kind of... It is a disruptor. But at this point, Mars is retrograde. Mars is going to oppose Pluto one more time. But the Mars-Pluto opposition is cushioned by Mars trining the North Node, then getting ready to trine Neptune, then getting ready to trine Saturn, then going direct and trining Saturn and Neptune and the North Node and opposing Pluto. And yes, squaring Chiron too. And it's the same bodies that are kind of involved in the Sagittarius aspects and the Capricorn aspects and Mars going back into Cancer aspects. The North Node, Chiron, Saturn, Neptune. The new moon in Capricorn comes with opportunity. And in 2 weeks, as we head to that Cancer full moon, Venus is going to be getting ready to conjunct Saturn. Enjoy the next few days. You are going to feel compelled to start to get this new year into alignment and the Capricorn part of your chart into alignment with what feels right for you. You're going to become very clear, and the universe may assist in some of this kind of stuff with creating some endings. You're really going to be thinking about, what did Venus create an opportunity or portal for between November 11th and December 7th that now we get to take action on and communicate around? How do you bring the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment with what you value and what you have to share and what feels right for you? How is that going to support Uranus in the Taurus part of the chart, trying to get you to move in the right direction there? Jupiter conjuncted Uranus on April the 20th. We're still dealing with the repercussions of that conjunction. It's a wonderful, exciting new moon. We may enter it not completely peaceful or happy. And I would pay attention to the discontent. I would pay attention to what is nagging you. I would pay attention to what you feel you have to do, what you have to feel you have to do in the Sagittarius part of the chart to kind of bring that into alignment over the next week or so. And what is it that you need to consider making a priority and doing in the Capricorn part of the chart during the month of January to bring that into alignment as you head towards, as you get to the next, the intensity of actually, you are no longer going to be able to coast comfortably and uncomfortably in a certain way that you may have done, even if it may not have felt like coasting. As I said, between now and the middle to the end of April, it is just, you want to make change, you will have that ability behind you. This Venus conjuncting Saturn, but you know what? This is the first sign of things getting even serious again, with regard to bringing the Pisces part of the chart. 2025, bringing the Pisces stability to the Pisces part of the chart is going to be the number one priority. And Venus conjuncting Saturn, Venus being the planet that's moving further ahead, that Venus and Mercury retrograde in March, Venus is getting ready to conjunct Saturn in about 3 weeks' time, and I am going to need to do a video on Venus going through Pisces and Aries and looking at that Venus and Mercury retrograde now, even though it doesn't happen until March, because the conversations start now. So January, a certain amount of energy focused in the Capricorn part of the chart as a result of this new moon. Activities start to heat up in the Pisces part of the chart. In the first week of this month, this coming month, January, in the Sagittarius part of the chart to wrap up. As we look at this week ahead of us, we have the new moon and Mercury trine Chiron today on the 30th. On the 2nd of January, Mars trines the North Node, opposes Pluto, and Venus moves into Pisces. On the 5th of January, the South Node trines Pluto. On the 6th of January, Mercury squares Neptune and Mars backs into Cancer. And that's it. All the bulk of the faster coming, the only aspects that I have not mentioned because they are going to be, they're slower moving, are Neptune conjuncting the North Node. Out of that, everything else, Mars trining Neptune is also later on in January. But the bottom line is all the aspects I've mentioned are within a 5-degree orb. And the bulk of the aspects associated with this new moon occur as this week continues, which is why I don't want to do just because I've been doing a new moon video and a weekly overview and a monthly overview, I don't see a need to. Here is your new moon video and your weekly overview. As this week progresses, Mars trines the North Node, Mars opposes Pluto, the South Node trines Pluto, and Mercury is getting ready to square Neptune. You're going to enter the new year. That first week of January itself is going to have a kind of a shake-up quality. But the fact that all of this is happening right after the new moon gives me hope that we are all going to be on our horses moving ahead. So that whatever it is that Mars opposite Pluto, Mars trining Neptune, both these aspects happening for the second of 3 times as Mars is retrograde. The South Node trining Pluto, what needs to be released in the Libra part of the chart. Remember one more thing, that January 15th full moon is 2 months before the lunar eclipse in Virgo on March the 17th. So by the time you get to the 2nd and 3rd weeks of January, the energies might feel eclipsy. Abhi, what does all of this mean? What does it mean to you to bring the Capricorn part of your chart into alignment with what you value and where you want to go? And it's game on. In the first week of this, wrapping up the Sagittarius part of the chart, bring that into alignment, and enjoy the next few days in the quiet it gives you, recover. And if you're feeling like alignment is the order of the day, and I want to enter this new moon with greater energy to create the change I want to create, and to create the alignment I want to create, and to start the process of ending what needs to be ended and begin what needs to be begun. And some of this has been under constant consideration and surveillance all the way since March, April of 2023, but sufficient action has not been seen or made till November of 2024. Well, now, between now and the middle to the end of April, you might be surprised at just how much can occur. And it's the ending of inertia. And in the Capricorn part of the chart, what may surprise you is, especially if over the past couple of months something has come up that you thought, oh, this is what Venus is bringing, you may start to realize that it's actually this Mars trining the North Node as this week progresses and opposing Pluto on the same day, on January the 2nd, may really bring into focus for you what you need to do and what you need to disrupt in order to move in the direction that you want to move in. And Mars is still in Leo till January the 6th. We come into the first week of January. We come into the first week of January very much seeking alignment. But as far as the new moon is concerned in the month of January, you are going to be trying to make the right decisions, making the right decisions, hopefully taking courageous action to bring the Capricorn part of the chart into alignment, and noting with amusement what it is that Venus brought to you during her transit in Capricorn. And now you get to determine what that means and what you're going to construct and build on it. There is clearly so much more that is coming up that I'm going to be bringing up and discussing in videos. Let's just leave it for this. Let's just leave it at this, because I think this video in and of itself gives you a lot to think about. Take it easy over the next few days and try and enjoy the holiday as best you can. You're going to enter the first week of January feeling compelled, as I said, to get into alignment and start to move towards taking actions. It's kind of surveying the landscape, and all of January, as I said, at least some part of that energy is going to be around, okay, what am I doing in the Capricorn part of the chart? What is my right path? And I'm going to leave it at that. If you would like me to take a look at your chart from a 2025 lens, how are the transits? Sorry, that's my cat. He's using the litter box, and now he's kind of cleaning his paw. He has his own way of dealing with stuff. So if you would like me to take a look at your birth chart and see how the energy of 2025 affect it, go ahead and write to me. As I said, I'm offering a discounted reading on that. I will share rates, etc., based on your country of residence. So let me know that too. Email address is in the description box below. You can email me there for regular readings as well, and I can give you that information. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Next to the subscribe button, bell icon, hover over the bell, wiggly bell on top, click on that, and you'll be notified when I do a new video. Comment, like the video, comment on, like the video. It's a free way to support the channel if you feel so inclined. A thanks button underneath this video, you can use that to contribute to the channel. I know Valentine, he likes to let me know he's used the litter box. I know, it's okay. Got it. I think it's time for me to go. I did. Capricorn is my 6th house of pets. I think it's kind of funny that is somehow included into this particular video. All right, we leave it at that. Enough for you to ponder. Take a look at your charts, figure out where Capricorn is, where Sagittarius is, how everything I've said kind of resonates, what it puts you in the space of thinking about and planning towards. Take it easy over the next couple of days. Lovely to have the new moon energy. And if you're ready to move towards January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, feeling like you're getting back on the horse, getting the horse in yourself to just say, okay, that's the direction I'm going to move in, and this is what I need to do to wrap up things in the Sagittarius part of the chart. I think that's kind of the right place to go. By the time we get to the 2nd and 3rd week of January, it's game on. All right, I will leave it at that, and I'm going to be back doing some more videos soon. Take care.